Hello and welcome to this week's Magic Words for Parents. I'm so glad you're here and watching. I really appreciate that very, very much. And I hope I can help you. So last week's, I gave you a quick phrase for when your child is overwhelmed by too much choice, when there's just too many decisions to be made, or too many choices to choose from to make one decision. And sometimes kids can just freak out about that. Sometimes they retreat, sometimes they melt down. It can be terrible. And so last week's, I'll link to it here. Last week's is going to be, well, is very useful as like a first level, an entry level kind of phrase, something you can say that's really quick and useful. But today I wanted to get into a sort of part two about that, which is like, what happens when that's not working, when like that thing that you're trying to use, that last week's phrase, is not working. And so this is when you're past the point of when your child is just very anxious, when they're saying, I don't know, when they're tearful, when they're just overwhelmed. And it almost goes beyond the kind of like this or this, you know what I mean? It kind of goes beyond that. And so the phrase that I have found most helpful and that I advise for parents, that they find very helpful as well, when you get to this point, when you're at DEFCON 5 level, is to say, and you need to phrase it as a question, but what you say is, can you make this choice, or do you need me to make this choice? And a lot of times that'll help snap them out of it. I use this very effectively with like any age, kids because even small kids can understand when they need your help, when they just can't make that choice. And I found it works incredibly effectively with older kids, with middle school age kids, with teenagers, when they trust you enough to know that this isn't a punishment. Like, we're not being punitive. What we're doing is we're saying, if you need help making this choice, I am here to help you. And then making a choice that feels like it'll be the best choice for everybody. You can include yourself in this. So Jennifer is watching. Hi, Jennifer. And she's giving applause and hearts and all this good stuff. Jennifer says, I've threatened, if you don't choose, then I will choose for you. And I have used it as a kind of a threat as well. And I'm asking you to kind of do a little bit of a mind shift, because how can I say this? I don't mean that in a, you know how I always say on the podcast, like, I'm not sitting here with my finger in your face telling you what to do, right? I am sitting next to you. I'm giving you a hug. Like, I'm trying to help you with the best possible intentions. And I personally have found that if I use a threatening voice, if I say, if you can't choose, I'm going to choose for you, in that kind of mom business voice, I get a child who's now overwhelmed and angry. and that's not what we want, right? So I find that it's best to just take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, listen, I can see you're having a really hard time making this choice. Do you want me to make it for you? I will do my best. And then the trick is that once you make that choice for them, even if they don't like it, it still has to be the choice. Like, you've given them the option, and now you need to say, all right, I'm making this choice. And if they howl and scream, well, then that's life. You made that choice. You made the choice to let me make the choice. So so I'm really glad, Jed, that you jumped in, because there's a difference between a threatening sound and a mentoring sound, a helpful way. And sometimes we can feel angry, and that's why we might sound threatening. Jen, you can jump in and tell me if you feel that way or not. But I feel like a lot of times, if I'm making my voice be unpleasant, I mean, sometimes it has to be firm. There's a big difference between firm and unpleasant. So I'm not saying don't sound firm, but making it sound like it's my way or the highway. I mean, you're going to get angry, because now it's become, your child looks at that as a control issue. So I also wanted to say that, I guess I should say, that is this week's phrase. if you look like you can't choose, do you need me to make this choice for you? And try it, give it a try, see what happens. Please report back just by commenting in here or just commenting on this page at all. And you know, I hope it works for you. I wanted to say, Jen, again, in our We Turned Out Okay Facebook group, Jen brought up a really good point, which is last week's could work for some things, but not for others. And I wanted to say, you know, I've heard this phrase, a friend of mine who also has a podcast uses the expression, mileage may vary. So like, this advice is free advice. It doesn't cost you anything, right? And it may not work for every situation. It may not be particularly right for you or for your family dynamic, and that is fine. What I want to tell you is that if you either want extra magic words for parents, like if these are that helpful, or you want to, you want to know, for example, June's extra magic word for parents, because I do one every month. June's is about how to discipline your child in public, which can be a very frightening thing. And I offer stuff like that over at patreon.com/WeTurnedOutOK. And if you're struggling with making this work for you, you can do what quite a few people have done now and work with me personally. And Jen is one of our Ninja Parenting community members, and so we can always take a discussion like this and go into the forums, and if something like this isn't working, you can post in there and you can say, why didn't this work for me? Like, can you help me make this better? And I always will, and I can, because I'm now we're working a little bit more closely together. So just think about that as we wrap up here. I am so excited to bring you these. They're getting really great results. I'm hearing from a lot of parents who just have really good things to say. A lot of times parents will say, this kept me from having a temper tantrum. Like this, having these quick phrases made it so that I can always think of something to say instead of snapping at my child, or instead of hurting, either saying something I'll regret, or hurting myself, in anger, hurting my child, or my child's feelings, or my own feelings, because I knew I should have handled it another way. So this is that way. Use these magic words, and I hope they help. All right, I am finishing up. If you have commented and I haven't seen it, I apologize. Like, I'm finding that sometimes I can see things and sometimes I can't. I don't understand it. It's all interweb stuff that I haven't quite gotten a handle on yet. But if I haven't seen and you've commented, I will look after I'm done recording, and then I will get back to you. So thank you very much. Have a great week. I hope this works for you, and we'll be back next week with another Magic Words for Parents. Okay, bye.